Let me start. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session. Please excuse my voice. I lost it while flying in. I'll try to do my best. In today's session, I'm going to talk to you about how you can squash your application hidden bugs using Microsoft Clarity. Okay, a little bit about myself. My name is Ibrahim Radwan. I'm a senior software engineer working at Microsoft. I have been working with Microsoft for the past 5 years. For 3 of them, I was mainly focused on building Clarity for native mobile applications, Android and iOS as well. Okay, so let me kickstart this session by this wonderful quote, which says most of the world will make decisions by either guessing or using their gut. They will be either lucky or wrong. And you definitely know that being wrong is not a good thing. So basically, for us app developers, okay, thank you very much. In order to avoid being wrong, we do use analytic services, right? So I would assume most of you here use analytic services for your applications, right? But if you have ever heard actually of behavioral analytic services, could you please raise your hand if you have ever heard of behavioral analytic services? It's okay, so we have one here. Okay, cool. So I'm going to show you today the importance and the necessity of behavioral analytics tools and how they could help you transform your business and achieve a greater success. So let's take this short yet painful story that I think all of us could relate to, which starts by a feature that we design and we spec and so on, and then we put hours and hours developing it and testing it, making sure that it's working as expected, and then we ship it to production expecting to have happy customers, good ratings, and so on. But then our dreams get shattered by the exact opposite, which is that we get angry customers, bad reviews, and so on. So in order to solve this situation, you basically go to your standard analytic services in order to find some clues on how to resolve the issue, right? So basically, you go there, you see a ton of metrics, a lot of data points, and you try to make sense out of it to reach a conclusion on how to fix this problem, but then you reach no actionable items that you could take. And here is actually where behavioral analytics tools like Clarity come to help you. We make it easier for you by showing you how your user is going through your application. We give you we give you this visual signal or visual insights that helps you see how your users were going through your app and what actions they did, what friction points they faced, and so on. So Clarity basically does this by giving you 4 key features or 4 key tools that helps you in this. So basically, the first one is session replay, in which you see a reconstruction or a playback of your user's sessions on your application. The second one is heat maps, where we show you the action at scale. We show you an aggregated view of how your users were using the app. We also give you insights that help you zoom in on the interesting sessions. And we have recently actually integrated Copilot into Clarity, which is one of the most interesting features right now. And by using Copilot as an AI partner for you, you should be able to ask Copilot to give you more insights about how to enhance your application. And based on the sessions that Clarity has gotten for your application, it should tell you that you have to change this and do that to be able to enhance your application experience to your users. Okay, let's dig a little bit deeper into each of these features. So for session replay, I'm going to show you a quick example here. So on the left-hand side, this is a recording of a session on a physical device, and on the right-hand side, this is the reconstruction of this same exact session on the Clarity dashboard. So as you can see here, you are seeing what the user was going through, user interactions. You could also see at the bottom right, left corner here, the interesting events that happened in this session, and so on. You could also favorite sessions, share them with others, and so on. And whenever there is something wrong, you could easily detect it while watching the session. So for example here, in this session, the user was frustrated because he was clicking on a certain banner multiple times in a row, expecting something to happen while nothing was happening. And we classify this as a rage session. And we show you, actually in the timeline here, that you have rage tabs, and you could filter sessions on rage tabs. And based on this, you could find possible improvements, maybe give this banner an action to do something. Moving on now to the second feature, which is heat maps. As I said, it shows you an aggregate view. So for example, here it shows you more heat on the elements that are most interesting to your users. and we gave you different viewports of every screen in your application. So basically, I have filtered here on the Contuso activity screen. You have multiple viewports. Each viewport shows you a certain angle or a certain aspect of your screen. And whenever you choose one of those viewports, in the middle part here, we overlay the heat layer that shows you that, well, maybe like most of your users were interested in this element, they clicked on this element a lot of times. If this element does not generate you revenue, for example, you might need to change your design, re-evaluate it or something. Sorry. We do also provide different types of heat maps. So the previous one was the regular heat map, and this one is the rage heat maps. So if you remember from the previous example, the user was clicking on this banner. So as you can see here, this one was marked with red. So this also indicates that you have a problem there as well. Okay, moving on to a question that most of you would have right now, which is what about privacy? How does Clarity handle user privacy? So we basically give you full control on what to mask and what to actually keep on the device. And whenever you mask something from Clarity, it never leaves the device, it stays on the device, it does not get to the Clarity backend. So for example here, I decided to actually mask this element, which is this banner. And as you can see here, it's fully masked. You only get the layout of the element, you do not get the content of the element, and this, as I said, happens on the device. We also do provide automatic PII masking, we provide force masking for input fields, and we give you a ton of options on what to mask and what to send to Clarity. Okay, so the insights part, which is the third feature that we have, it basically shows you an eagle eye view of how your application is doing, and it shows you the main vitals, like the percentage of sessions that have rich tabs, dead tabs, and so on. It gives you a breakdown of your sessions by country, device class, operating system version. It shows you the most important screens on your application, and most important fragments as well, if you're using fragments. It shows you crashes, the sessions that have crashes, and you can go to these sessions and and see what did the user do to get to this crash. So this definitely helps you pinpoint the problem. You could also zoom in here by comparing different releases together. So you might tag the release A with a certain tag and release B with a certain tag, and then you put the numbers side by side and see if there is a jump in one of the negative metrics, like the rich tabs percentage. This probably tells you that you have to go check the sessions for release B, and based on this, you should make it an even better release. Okay, for the last one here, which is Clarity, Copilot and Clarity. So let's assume that you have long sessions, you don't have time to go through them, so you basically ask Copilot to give you insights out of these sessions. So in this particular session, the user went to the dairy category, the milk product, went back and went to search for a different product, which is here, yeah, clicked on eggs. So as you can see, this is the session. This is actually the Clarity's playback. But rather than going all of this, you just ask Copilot, just give me a summarization of this session. And in a few seconds, Copilot will give you a summary. The user began their session on this activity and remained for X seconds. They showed a particular interest in dairy and products and tapped on milk and eggs. And finally, for the last insight here, it tells you that the user was frustrated at some point in your session, and you might need to go to this particular segment and check it to see how to resolve the issue there. Okay, so moving on to some real-world experiences where people were able to transform their businesses after integrating Clarity. So the first one is for a company called Zubase. This company basically specializes in transforming small and medium size companies by transforming their traditional operations like printing bills, managing staff, managing inventory, and so on, to a more technologically advanced solution. So they have an app on the store that's downloaded for millions of times, and once they actually knew that they had a problem, a dropout problem in their onboarding flow. So they couldn't tell from using traditional analytics services what the problem is. And after integrating Clarity, they found out through our heat maps that the most clicked element in their heat onboarding flow is the back button. So after going through different sessions and looking at them, they realized that they have problems with onboarding confusion. So basically, people didn't know how to resume or continue with the onboarding flow. They also noticed some localization market issues. They also found out that they have an inconsistent experience across different OS versions, different device form factors like tablets versus device, and so on. And once they resolved all of these issues, they managed to achieve a 27% increase in their conversion rate, which actually help them achieve a much greater success after integrating Clarity. And for the next success story that we have is for a company called Robusto. This company specializes in building e-commerce solutions for retailers, medium-sized retailers. And after integrating Clarity, that they found out that for some retailers they had a broken search algorithm. So people were searching for something, they couldn't find it, they would abandon the app altogether. And then they also, by looking at different sessions, they found out that they have suboptimal layout design. So after fixing all of these things, they managed to actually increase their numbers significantly. So basically, customer retention, which was the most important one for them, increased by like 23%. So again, they enabled Clarity on all of their e-commerce applications to try to find more and more insights. Okay, so now let's move to the more technical part here, which is how to integrate Clarity in your application. It's a very easy thing. You just basically add Clarity as a dependency. And if you're using Compose in your application, you add the Compose variant of the dependency. And then just with a single line of code in your startup activity, you are able to initialize Clarity like this. And we do give you a ton of options to fine-tune how Clarity works. So basically, we give you the ability to control whether Clarity should upload over metered or unmetered networks. You could also specify the quota that Clarity is allowed to use on a daily basis. You also control whether to capture web views or skip them. You can even have a granular control over which domains to capture and which domains to skip. We also give you the ability to whitelist or sumlist the activities for Clarity to capture or skip. We also give you a lot of APIs, like you can post Clarity, resume it at any point in time. You can mask and unmask views. You can set custom user ID and custom session ID for your sessions, so you can search on them later on the dashboard side. So basically, let's say that you'd like to correlate the sessions with the user on your database, so you add your user ID as the custom session user ID. Sorry. We also allow you to send custom events, send custom tags. So basically, custom events like the user clicked here, the user signed in, signed up, and so on. Custom tags, like as I said earlier, you can tag the flight A sessions versus flight B sessions to be able to compare them side by side. Now, moving on to React Native, in order to integrate Clarity with React Native, it's a single line of code. You just, after installing the dependency, you just initialize Clarity, and that's it. And if you're using a React Native, if you have a React Native app, we work on Android and iOS as well. And you definitely have to do a fresh build because Clarity uses some native code to run. Okay, so now moving on to privacy and masking. So as I mentioned earlier, we do respect privacy, and Clarity was built with privacy at its core. So as part of giving you full control over the data that you share with Clarity, we give you 3 different masking modes. So for the relaxed mode here, nothing is masked by default except for input fields. And also for the balanced mode, we do mask PII information as well as input fields. And for the strict mode, you only get the layout of your application. All the content is masked by default. And you do also get more granular control by using our APIs to maybe use the strict mode and unmask a certain element, for example. Okay, moving on. So as I said earlier, you can mask views by their IDs, you can mask views by their tags, by their types, you can mask activities and screens, you can mask fragments, you can mask React Native elements using the test ID property. If you're using Compose, you can use the Clarity mask and unmask modifiers to be able to apply your masking rules to your Clarity composables. Okay, so now moving on to integrating Clarity to other analytics services. So let's say you are using Firebase, for example, as an analytics service within your app, and you'd like to integrate both together. All what you have to do is you can just link the Firebase with the other analytics service events with Clarity through our session URL. So basically, you add Clarity's session URL as a dimension or a custom key to your Firebase events. And whenever this event is triggered on Firebase, you get, as a custom key, you get the session link, the Clarity session link, where you can go ahead and check the link to see what actually happened that led to this particular event. Okay, so how it works behind the scenes. So basically, Clarity tries to have as minimal impact on your application as possible. So we do this by actually capturing your view hierarchy on a custom type of canvas, where we capture what's called drawing commands of your application. And those commands are then sent to our servers after masking and so on. And whenever you would like to see a session, we just render those commands on a canvas, on an HTML canvas. And then you get to see the session as it was on the user's device. And By doing this, so the other approach was to capture screenshots of the app, but this turned out to be much more efficient on the host app, on the device bandwidth, and so on. And yeah, this is basically how it works behind the scenes. Okay, so right now we do support Android, we do support Compose, of course, we do support iOS, Swift UI, if you have iOS applications, we support React Native, we support Ionic, we support Cordova, Flutter is coming soon. Clarity also started as a web project, so basically Clarity has a ton of integrations with different web development frameworks and so on. And the cherry on top here is that Clarity is 100% free, so basically you can send us as much traffic as you would like, we will accept it, we will digest it, and we will show you insights out of it. And yeah, that's it. If you'd like to scan this QR code, it is going to take you to the Clarity homepage where you can basically sign up, create your free project quickly, and just get started.